With the information we're about to share, we want to make it clear that we're not trying to persuade anyone to vote one way or another. This video is simply to debunk some of the most common myths about undocumented immigrants. But don't take our word for it. Even though we'll be showing you the information directly from the government websites, the official government websites, we encourage you all to do your own research. You should Google this information. You should go to the web pages on your own so that you know there are no AI tricks in here, or do whatever makes you feel comfortable so that you can see for yourselves. Most of this information will be found in the frequently asked questions section.
Where American tax dollars is being used to fund illegal aliens into our country. And these illegal aliens didn't pay one dime or one red cent into our systems.
And this is completely false. Now, we could get on here and drag a girl for complete filth, but we're not going to do that because the best way to combat ignorance is with education. U.S. systems are funded by taxpayers. Let's start there. If you're interested in understanding how taxes work and which programs you pay into, then subscribe so that you'll catch our upcoming tax series. To start, we want to address the claim that undocumented immigrants do not pay into the system. It's common knowledge that there are many undocumented people working jobs that pay them on the books. The IRS knows it, USCIS knows it, and that is USCIS. For those of you who don't know, is the organization that determines residency and changing legal status. Everyone knows it. In fact, the IRS is so about the bag that they invented individual tax identification numbers, also known as ETINs or ITINs. ETINs are numbers specifically given to undocumented people so that they may file taxes and pay the IRS their fair share. Well, their share. I don't know if it's fair. I'm not going to get into tax policy. But this includes FICA, aka Social Security, and Medicare. ETIN does not give a person legal permission to work in the United States. It does not make them eligible for Social Security benefits. They can pay, and they do pay into Social Security, but having the ETIN in itself does not make them eligible to receive Social Security. And it's important to note that even if undocumented people obtain an ETIN, they are still ineligible to receive certain tax credits, such as the Earned Income Credit, which is the largest tax credit a person can receive for dependents. And you'll hear more about this in our series, but this credit only applies to low-income families. And there's a child tax credit, which usually maxes out at about $2,000. I'm sure you've heard that they're intending to raise it. And then there's an other dependent credit, which is for people who you may care for, but they're not related to you. And that is for $500, but it's not cash. The other two credits are cash. I want to keep this video short, so stay tuned for our tax series, and you can learn more about the distinction between these different credits. Now, while undocumented taxpayers can receive child tax credit, which is the $2,000 for their U.S. citizen children, they are unable to receive child tax credits for any non-citizen children. And an adult and children are able to apply for ETINs. So if you're concerned that some undocumented person brought their undocumented children with them and they are just getting all these tax credits, they're not. The most money, and it doesn't translate to cash, that they can get for a non-citizen child, that even a U.S. citizen can get for, the most a U.S. citizen can get for a non-citizen child is $500. And for those of you who might not watch the tax series, but also might complain, well, they're still getting $500. If for other dependent credits, if you do not have a tax balance owed, then you don't get the money for the other dependent credit. So they will walk away with nothing if they are undocumented with undocumented children. so that you can be bigly, doubly, and triply sure that undocumented immigrants are not living off of your tax dollars. One of the requirements for a person to apply for adjustment of status to get a green card is that the person has to show that they will not become a charge of the state, meaning they won't rely on U.S. government systems. This is done with Form I-864, where the undocumented immigrant has to submit tax documents of at least 10 past years to prove that government assistance will not be necessary. If an undocumented immigrant, well, that will be Form I-864W. It's the waiver of that. If an undocumented immigrant does not have the required tax year earnings, then the petitioner, the U.S. citizen who's requesting the adjustment on the undocumented immigrant's behalf, has to fill out Form I-864 to show through their taxes that they have enough income, sufficient income, to support themselves and the undocumented immigrant. There's even been scuttlebutt about taxpayer dollars being used to fund immigration processes such as getting a green card. 100% untrue. In addition to having to show these 10 years worth of taxes, undocumented immigrants and their petitioners have to pay for each application that's listed on this what to submit form. Each application has its own fee and they're not covered by taxes. They have to be paid with the application. Nothing's free. Immigrants are definitely paying their way. Now that you've seen for yourself that undocumented people do pay into the system, let's discuss how they are unable to take money out of the system, which was old girl's second claim. There are a number of programs that undocumented immigrants are ineligible for. Let's just start with marketplace insurance. While it's true some undocumented people are able to get health insurance through their jobs, they pay for those. They're not able to take advantage of health subsidies or receive tax credits associated with marketplace insurance, aka Obamacare. Recently, there have been some states that make exceptions and allow undocumented immigrants access to healthcare, but they are still ineligible for federally funded programs. They're also ineligible for SNAP benefits. I cannot believe y'all are walking around spreading or believing this false rhetoric when this information is so easy to verify. Yes, undocumented immigrants can apply for marketplace insurance on behalf of their children who are U.S. citizens or who have some other kind of legal status. And if the undocumented parent's income falls within the eligibility range, they can also apply for Medicaid or food stamps for those U.S. citizen children. And there's no use in getting upset about it because those kids are citizens or they have legal status. So they are entitled to the resources regardless of their parents' status. And do not cry about your tax dollars going to benefit the kids of some undocumented person because that undocumented parent has to be working to even apply for these things on behalf of their children. So if that's the argument you want to make, then just pretend that the undocumented person's tax dollars are going to help their own children, their own citizen children. Now check that. These undocumented students are looking for the tax dollars because they are not eligible for federal student aid and they have to pay out of state fees when they attend a public school. This also applies to students who have DACA. DACA recipients have some semblance of an acknowledgement that they were brought here as children and didn't have a choice in the matter. It does not give them legal status per se, but it's an acknowledgement and it's deferring. It's called deferred action. It's deferring any punitive action considering their situation. And even they do not get access to these federally funded programs. So if they, who are registered as undocumented, are not getting these benefits, then you can know for a fact that undocumented are not getting any kind of relief. I could just keep reeling them off. Let's go with housing in Section 8. Undocumented individuals are not eligible to receive Section 8. And this is the fact, even if they have children who are citizens. They cannot receive Section 8. They don't get any rental assistance, so that might be why they are buying up the houses that y'all are complaining about. The houses that are broke down and they have to end up fixing themselves. The next big thing is that there's a claim being made that the CBP One app is just letting all immigrants into the country willy nilly, just make an appointment and boom, you're in. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that's not the case. The CBP One app is only able to be used for people who are seeking humanitarian asylum, and it does not in any way give them any type of legal status. They cannot claim asylum at this port of entry. They cannot receive a green card at this port of entry. The point of going to these checkpoints is so that later the applicant is able to apply for adjustment of status and not be barred simply based on the fact that they entered the country illegally. Everyone who wants to adjust status, it's easier to do so at some point if you came into the country legally. We're not going to get into that, but who knows? Maybe there'll be a separate video about it later. But the CBP One app is simply like you how airports have an app where you can check in and do things ahead of time. You make an appointment. It's just trying to simplify the process so that people who are in the future or currently seeking asylum will be able to can proceed with the application process without being barred simply because they entered the country illegally. This does not guarantee anyone a green card. If we're being honest, it doesn't even grant them entry because applications can be denied. All this is doing is taking the coyote out of the situation. So instead of paying somebody to help them cross the border or just sneaking across, this is just a checkpoint. So if people want to think ahead, then they could argue that this process might actually make it a bit more tricky for people to get into the country because they have to go through security checks and there's a chance they could be turned away. I think we can end it here because we've shown you ample instances of immigrants not being able to receive benefits for a system they absolutely pay into. Once again, the purpose of this video is to educate. Just think about it. The jobs that undocumented immigrants are supposedly taking, the black ones, are jobs that no one else wants. Otherwise, those jobs wouldn't even be open for the undocumented immigrant to get. Employers know that they can overwork and underpay undocumented people with little to no consequences. While there are labor laws and protections against this, most undocumented people are afraid to speak up about any injustice because any small thing can cause them to be separated from their families. Can you imagine spending day in and day out at a low-paying, hard labor job and building a life somewhere? And yeah, because a lot of people in this country are doing it. A lot of citizens are doing it. But at the same time, you don't know if it can all be taken away from you just because of something out of your control, because someone had a bad day, reported you to ICE, or you got pulled over while driving home from work, but you didn't have a license and the cop decided to turn you in. I mean, there are so many things that could just come and in an instance, surprise raids. I mean, really, what is the harm? And I'm not going to get into the whole thing about the criminals and the murderers and drug dealers and all of that, because those people exist. There are U.S. citizens who do those same things. This is just about the hate. What is the harm? I mean, it's hard out here for everybody in this country right now, but these undocumented people come and they work their fingers to the bone to support themselves and their families. So can you imagine if they come here and do what most of us would never even think to do? How much harder is it in their home country? Because to be honest, if it was me and I went to a different country and I I was treated the way some people in the United States treat immigrants, I'm trying to tell you, I will be on the first thing out. I will be going home. There's absolutely no way that I would stay in a situation that's bad unless what I came from was worse. Why can some people just not allow them to try and, I mean, there's enough room at the table for everybody to eat. I don't understand why it's so difficult. But anyway, to all the trolls who are going to leave us nasty comments or who are going to thumbs down this video, thanks for the views, babes. And for everyone else, thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe so you can get more videos like this. The tax series and other educational content. We also do story times and lighthearted content. We like to have a good key as well as spread knowledge. So you might as well go ahead and check out our channel while you're here. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.